Hello. We're going to do Randall's route because it's necessary to get Marcus's special ending, and I figured there's probably some Randall fans out there somewhere, and why not? If I'm giving Heath and Marcus a fair shot, I should give Randall a fair shot too, even if aesthetically he's not like my type. He's definitely other people's type though. So, and I could be surprised. I have been surprised, believe it or not. I have been surprised. I did not think I would like Marcus, and spoiler alert, I did. So, I don't know. We're just gonna do Randall's route, and who knows? Maybe we'll get some more story. I don't know. I don't know. Skip intro. No, and I'm doing that in case people only want to watch one route. It might be annoying for people who, are watching more than one. I don't know. But yeah, so we're not gonna skip the intro. Even though that's such an easy way to choose your house. Okay. Everyone comes to Hollywood for a reason. And I've come to Hollywood 2 previous times. Saints, sinners, artists, anti-artists, and all of the beautiful people in America. On September 24th, 1996, I became one of those people. But why did I go to Hollywood? Let's go to become a legend. I didn't want to fade away as just another nobody. I wanted to be remembered. We're trying to go for a Mavar house. The houses will be explained, but right now we're going for, I don't know, aggressive type answers, I guess. I had a dream to get my name on everyone's lips, even if I wasn't quite sure how to do it yet. Of course, that was just the reason why. The how, that was something different. I came to Hollywood as a rebel making waves. Yes, that's definitely it. I'd always done my own thing, had my own style, fought for my own ideals. Back in my hometown, it got me plenty of attention, but not enough. The world was ready for a change, and I was ready to set it in motion, no matter the cost. For 2 weeks, I prowled around the Sunset Strip, learning the ins and outs of Hollywood. Each night, I felt my dreams getting closer, more real. The glittering celebrity world was opening its doors to me, beckoning me inside. Until 2 weeks later, on October 8th, when it happened. I'd gone to a club, but not just any club, one that hosted the darker side of LA nightlife. I wasn't disappointed. Eerily beautiful people everywhere, swathed in dark clothes, slow, hypnotic music, the rattling of dancers in cages. Something felt different about this place. It wasn't just another club. No, it felt more like another world, oppressive, seductive, terrifying. To calm my nerves, I approached the bar to order my favorite drink, something strong, spicy, and colorful. I'm guessing for most of these things, but yeah. It was delicious, but I didn't get more than a few seconds to enjoy the taste. And I said this about when I was doing Marcus's route and I had to do all these choices. But if I don't get the correct house that I want because I've made the wrong decisions, I will just pause, go back, skip the intro, get the house I want. It was delicious, but I didn't get more than a few seconds to enjoy the taste. When I looked up, someone down the bar was staring at me intently. A tall, dark-haired man dressed in all black, his gaunt face matched by a skull-piercing stare. What are the Mavar powers, actually? After a few moments, he stalked closer, only stopping when his chest nearly touched mine. But it didn't feel like a pickup, not even like bold flirting. Suddenly, I knew I was in very real danger. And yet, as I stared at my own reflection in his dilated pupils, I realized I couldn't move. I was completely hypnotized by the beastly look in his eyes. See, I feel like this is very important because, spoiler alert, but this is going to be the person who turns you into a vampire. And this, I feel like, is possibly the Ascari one. This is the Golgotha one, and this means he's a Mavar. So the beastly look in his eyes. I swallowed in fear, but my curiosity only flared higher. There was something mesmerizingly inhuman in his gaze, and I felt like prey before a predator. Something I'd never truly felt before. It was more fascinating than I wanted it to be. Sinking his long nails against my shoulder, the man led me towards the filthy hallway with its filthier bathrooms. Wild moans and the wheezing of people who'd sniffed too many drugs leaked from under the doors, along with the weak, fluorescent light, but I didn't have much time to appreciate the cinematic moment. The man grabbed my hair and pushed me against the wall, which was full of posters for bands nobody cared about. "I'm going to change your life forever, but you'll never learn my name," he whispered. "How does that make you feel?" "Why won't you give me your name? I have many names, Valkii. None of them matter as much as yours." As those low words rumbled in his throat, he smiled, and two long, cruel fangs glimmered between his lips. Fangs? No, they couldn't be real, and yet, for some horrible reason, I knew they were. In that moment, I suddenly felt... we'll just use one we haven't used. Gripped by fear, my instinct screamed at me, alarm bells ringing in my ears. Some of this is probably just like your personality. Let me see what if anything has changed. Yeah, see. It's changing my personality. How had he lured me in? Why couldn't I escape? I thrashed in his arms, opening my mouth to scream. Oh, I do need to take a picture of this for the thumbnail. Oh, okay. Because when I look at the CGs, and the CGs are all with white hair because that's the hair I chose for Heath when I was in the Heath route rather. And then I felt the bite. An agonizing pain ripped through me, searing into my neck, spreading through my whole body. I couldn't make a sound. I couldn't do anything except stand still, just like a deer in headlights. But slowly, the pain started to melt away. Warm, euphoric tingles bubbled through my neck and down my spine. I let out a low moan before I could stop it, but the sound just blended into the murky background of music and laughter. It was better than anything, better than sex, better than drugs, better than money or love or fame, and yet it felt like all of those things rolled up into one sensation. His icy hands and lips pulled me down into this incredible euphoria until my body couldn't take it anymore. I felt the blood draining from my veins, my breathing coming to a halt, my heart finally stopping. I realized what was happening, but I was too drowned in pure, mindless bliss to even care. I was dying. Was I dead? Drink. Something pressed against my lips. A metallic liquid dripped down my throat, sending a jolt through my body. I should have been dead, but I wasn't. Instead, I was half awake, half dreaming. In the middle of that surreal moment, I felt strangely powerful. Nothing could stop me. I was dangerously, impossibly strong. I could destroy the whole world, and a part of me wanted to. And so hell spreads its legs. His voice rasped harshly in my ear. The world went dark. And we have the intro. Which of course I will show. It is crazy how I thought Marcus was not my type at all, but... You know, when I went through his route, it definitely had an effect, you know? Like, I was depressed when I went through Heath's route. Because it was just depression, 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 you know? I feel like, I don't know, both routes really stuck out to me. But I don't know, they were both really good. I'm expecting big things from Randall's route, I guess. Oh, look at him. I do respect that, this seems like the person who made this tried to, go for everyone's type, right? You've got the K-pop ass looking boy. Very pretty. And then you've got Marcus, who I would say is more traditionally like a vampire aesthetic, right? Long black hair. Kind of like slim-faced. Piercing eyes, you know, that kind of deal. So I'd feel he is the one. But then there's Randall, who's more of the muscly dude. Kind of, I guess, like a... Almost like he gives off like a heavy metal vibe or like anarchy vibe, you know? The next thing I knew, I was on the sidewalk outside the club. What the hell was I doing here? Had I blacked out? Was this a dream? I couldn't remember walking outside, even though I hadn't drunk anything strong. But I did remember that strange man. What he said to me, the bite. The bite? Did that mean... No, what a stupid thing to think. That must have just been a weird hallucination brought on by the flashing lights and pounding music. It served me right for going to such a sleazy club, honestly. I stumbled through the streets, fighting the urge to stop and vomit. I could feel my skin growing cold, my mouth was dry, and I didn't need to breathe. But at the same time, all my senses seemed oddly sharper. I could smell the discarded cigarette from half a block away, make out the fine print on a distant poster, and even hear the lewd whispers of a couple down the street. I felt like a wild animal thrown into the middle of a freeway, completely overwhelmed. So I have, in fact, this... I feel like this is different. This text is different. So I feel like this is me. I'm on the Mavar route. Or the Mavar car. I don't really need to be in it, but I feel like I will need to be in it for his special end, so why not? No, none of this was possible. There had to be some other explanation. Vampires didn't exist. But if they didn't exist, then what was I becoming? 'Cause I start recording and my cat decides to move on the pizza box. She was fine in the other position for hours. Yeah? That little noise they make when you like stroke them when they're sleepy or they don't expect it. It's so cute. By the time I rounded the corner to an alleyway, I was ready to slump down and curl up until I figured out what the hell was going on. But as soon as the alley came into view, I saw someone standing there watching me. Not just watching, it seemed more like he was waiting for me. Hello, Marcus. It's hard. It is hard after going through their roots. It's always hard to see them again for some reason. He took a deep breath, slowly shaking his head. You smell fresh. If I strain my ears, I can almost hear water dripping back into the baptismal font. The man's deep voice was accented with an aristocratic southern drawl, each word slow and emphatic. Again, not going to do the southern drawl, can't do it. Refuse to do it. His manner of speech reminded me of a preacher, melodic and a little theatrical. But almost instantly I sensed that something about him was different, wrong somehow. Are you like me? Dead, you mean? Yes, sister, I am dead. In any other sense, though, I'd be mighty doubtful. A knowing smile stretched over his lips, and he adjusted his sunglasses smugly. Now, as for introductions, I'm the Grand Master who plays blindfolded. That cut on your hand you don't remember getting, that scratched out face on the yearbook photo. They call me Marcus, and I am happy to join you for the best and worst night of your existence. After tipping an imaginary hat to me, he flashed a wide grin, and I glimpsed 2 small white fangs shining in the light. No need to mention your own name, Valkii, so don't worry, I know exactly who you are. And now you're one of us, a night stalker, a bloodsucker, an overblown myth hiding a horrible monster. You're a vampire, sister. Welcome to the Valley of Death. So I've really been turned into a vampire. Well, not quite. Right now, I'd say you more resemble a walking corpse. It's not until you sink your fangs into a live body, feel the heat flowing into your cold guts, that you start to shift into something more. My brain didn't feel like it could process what Marcus was saying. Everything made sense, but at the same time, it all just seemed too insane to be real. As if he could sense my confusion, Marcus let out a patient sigh. Considering you still look bemused, let me try to put the facts of this situation in simpler terms. You merely turned into a different kind of parasite, sister, an honest one. Money, sex, favors, you won't have to suck those out of human folk anymore. They'll simply fall into your lap. Just blood is all you need now. Doesn't that make you feel relieved? Marcus suddenly paused, taking a deep, long sniff of the air. A few moments later, he leaned towards me, this time sniffing close to my neck. What are you... Oh my, is that Mavar blood I sense? I think you're in for a fun time, sister. That light in your eyes reminds me of arson, angry and wild. You're burning up, but your humanity's still trapped inside. Oh, but that's normal for your house, so don't let it bother you too much. He winked at me, grinning like we'd shared some priceless inside joke, except I didn't get the punchline. What do you mean, Mavar? Indeed, you'll learn plenty about them soon enough, about yourself, rather. For now, you should at least know this. You were bitten by a Mavar vampire, which means your blood has taken on those qualities, and you're part of that house. You have my sincerest apologies. His lips curled in a slow, insidious smirk that suggested his apologies were anything but sincere. Was anything he said to me sincere, though? Did he actually know what was happening to me, or was he just some crazy druggie on the street? With my mind reeling like this, I couldn't decide which situation was more plausible. All right, I do believe that's enough. Before you get into any trouble, there is someone you need to meet. Come now, back to the pen like a good little lamb. Sure, why not? What a docile thing you are. Before I had a chance to offer a reply, Marcus grabbed my shoulders, pulling me forcefully towards the street. Just stay quiet. I bit my lip and said nothing. I wasn't exactly eager to trust him, but I didn't have much of a choice. When we reached the street a few moments later, I noticed a black sedan parked in front of us. It hadn't been there when I walked by earlier. Don't worry, my dear, we wouldn't dream of making you ride in anything but luxury. His voice drawled in my ear, ringing with amusement as he opened the backseat door. That's real comforting, thanks. Why, any time. Without further ceremony, Marcus shoved me inside the sedan, squeezing in behind me. The second he closed the door, the shadowy driver started up the car, and we sped off down the road at an alarmingly fast pace. I was too disoriented to try and figure out our destination from the landmarks passing by, but that didn't keep a sickening sense of anticipation from building in my gut. If there are any questions burning in your mind, now might be the time to ask. Marcus murmured to me from the other seat, his eyes glowing faintly behind their dark lenses. I can't promise you much, let alone the answers, but I figure you deserve some semblance of a welcome. Let it never be said that I am not a gentleman. Why are you waiting? Were you waiting for me back there? I was indeed. Consider me the bouncer to the eternal party in hell. Why was I turned into a vampire? You'll have to ask my new employer that, I'm afraid. I was probably told the details, but everything in my head sometimes blurs together into one big screaming mass. Is every vampire completely nuts, or is it just you? Sanity, I think you'll find, is a very subjective thing. That aside, no, every vampire is quite different. My kind is only one house out of 3. Right, that's enough for now. As you say, sister. We rode for a short while longer, and in the silence that followed, my mind felt blank. I was slowly coming to terms with what had happened, even though the rational part of me insisted I was stuck in a dream. Wherever Marcus was taking me, I could only hope that I'd finally learn the truth behind everything, including that mysterious man at the club. It wasn't long before we arrived at a huge, towering building, marked with a giant sign that read Hollywood Heights Hotel. I'd passed by this intimidating place before, noticing the unusually high security outside. Everyone who passed through its doors had a certain strange presence about them, even stranger than most of Hollywood's eccentrics. Marcus pulled me out of the car and into the hotel's luxurious lobby, his boots clacking on the polished marble floors. We came to a stop in front of a private room, but instead of knocking, Marcus simply barged right in. Good evening, Charisse. I've brought Valkii, our little Mavar novitiate. Please give her your warmest welcome. Oh, welcome back, Marcus. An elegant woman stood up from her chair to greet us, her eyes flicking from Marcus to me. I've been expecting you. Marcus, there's been a mistake. This individual was not supposed to be bitten. She spoke in a very slow, dangerous fashion of someone barely controlling their rage. At least that rage seemed to be directed at Marcus, not me. Is that so? Marcus shrugged, looking about as bothered as if he'd forgotten to get milk from the grocery store. But our sister here was the only pretty young dead thing to walk out of the abattoir. Your lucky candidate must have missed their appointment. Missed that? The woman steepled her fingers to her upper lip, and from the murderous way she stared at the ground, it was a wonder she didn't burn a hole through it. Just one headache after another. If only I could hire someone competent for a change. Finally, with a deep sigh, she turned her focus back to me. I had the distinct feeling her calculating eyes were scrutinizing me, doing some kind of rapid cost-benefit analysis. Well, let me start by saying my name, Charisse Locke. S-A-O-R-I-E I-S-E. Charisse, and I apologize for all of this happening to you. As you might have guessed, another mortal was supposed to receive the bite tonight, not you. It seems there was a misunderstanding. You know, I'm still not convinced this is real. Yes, well, it is quite real, much to your chagrin, I'm sure. It seems my agent was sabotaged, presumably by your mysterious sire, who is no doubt an enemy of mine. Regardless, I'm rather short on time here, so I won't mince words. You can lament over your loss of humanity for the next century, or you can accept the hand you've been dealt and move on. Charisse breezed along without trying to hide her impatience or annoyance, like I was inconveniencing her somehow. It almost left me speechless. She was going to chalk this up to a misunderstanding. You were an accident, but I'm offering you a purpose. As cruel as it may sound, this turn of events needn't be a tragic one for you. It is a chance for all you could have ever wanted in life, perhaps even more if you possess the will to survive. Therefore, my proposal is a straightforward one. Will you join the Los Angeles Coven of Vampires? My coven. We're trying to get on everyone's side right now. Oh, I've never seen that happen. Excellent. I'm glad our clever prankster chose someone with a sound head on her shoulders, if nothing else. The briefest of smiles flashed over her lips, like a subliminal message flickering on a TV screen. Very well, let me establish the main 3 rules of our coven. 1. When you feed, do not kill. It is unnecessary, since mortals almost always lose their memory of events leading up to the bite. 2. Never reveal your true nature to a mortal. By doing so, you endanger not only yourself, but our entire kind. As a result, you'll be disposed of. And finally, do not turn any mortal into a vampire without my permission, my explicit permission. It's necessary to keep our population to a minimum, as otherwise the area could quickly become overcrowded. Do you understand all of this? I do. Good, see to it that you don't forget these rules. I want to see if me being nice got my rep up. Absolutely did bugger all. With a quiet sniff, Charisse motioned towards the chair beside Marcus, who had languidly stretched out into a seat while we were talking. As I settled down in the offered chair, Marcus flashed me a sidelong smirk. It seemed he found all of this particularly amusing. Charisse snapped her fingers to get my attention. My state of shock wasn't high on her list of priorities, apparently. Now, Valkii, you've arrived during a most difficult time. It just so happens that we're in the middle of a war, a messy political war waged in the dark, entirely unbeknownst to mortals. As she began her brisk business agenda, Charisse gently lowered herself on the couch opposite me. The 3 houses, the ones all vampires belong to, Iskari, Mavar, and Golgotha, are fighting for the rule of Los Angeles. To put it very crudely, Iskari tend to be diplomatic, Mavar are more aggressive, and Golgotha are everything else. Ah, if only it were that simple. Yes, well, no doubt she'll learn of the nuances soon enough. Crossing her legs, Charisse let out a faint sigh, one hand flitting to push up her glasses. The current ruling house is Iskari, my house. We have governed Los Angeles for a number of years, but recently the other houses have gotten a little, how shall I put it, rowdy. We need to negotiate some sort of 3-way peace to restore order, but that's easier said than done. There are simply too many secret deals, betrayals, and assassinations going on behind the scenes. However, you are new enough to be politically naive and unbiased. She paused, that critical light glinting in her eyes again. Unlike most of the other vampires in LA, you have neither an existing reputation, nor any allegiances to speak of, and thus, you may be the key to our reconciliation. I'm listening, go on. The first task I intend to give you is a simple one, but it will serve as an accurate measure of your potential. There's a meeting going on tomorrow night between Randall, the powerful leader of the Mavar rebels, and some Golgotha emissaries. I want you to sneak into that meeting and disrupt it. How can I disrupt it? That'll be the least of your concerns. You should be more worried about getting past the guards. Whatever tools you have at your disposal, I suggest you use them. Quick thinking and improvisation are the keys to seeing another sunset. Tomorrow night, Marcus will call you an hour before the meeting. He should have all the details you'll need. Make sure that no treaty is made between the Mavar and Golgotha. It is an important step towards forcing Randall onto our side. He's too valuable as a potential ally. Consider this task your trial. It is an opportunity to transcend your circumstances, to prove that fate chose you for a reason. With an air of finality, Charisse rose and stepped briskly past me, striding over to the door. Marcus shuffled aside, eyeing her with an arched eyebrow. You'll be staying here at the Hollywood Heights Hotel, in the room intended for the candidate you replaced. The hotel is managed by some of our people, so you'll be perfectly safe. The next time we speak, I'll be looking forward to the tale of your success, Valkii. The door slammed shut behind her, and the swift clacking of her high heels slowly faded into the distance. I turned to Marcus, unsure how exactly to process everything Charisse had just told me. Well, 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 it seems the stars smile on you, sister. He let out a delighted chuckle, winking at me behind those dark lenses. Therese doesn't like to make mistakes. He must have caught her in a good mood tonight. Tell me, what do you think of her, the Red Queen? Powerful, confident. I like her. I don't believe she's still listening in on us, sister. I see you're cautious, though, and that's good. Marcus paused, glancing down to an old-fashioned pocket watch in his palm. Just checking my mic. Okay. The fact that he owned one didn't surprise me in the least, somehow. I'll be calling your room around midnight tomorrow. It would be wise to prepare yourself in every sense of the word. Now it's about time for me to head out, but before I go, I have one last thing to say to you, and I don't intend to say it twice. His expression suddenly grew dark. He stared at me intently, as if to confirm I was listening. Do not trust anyone. Every soul you meet in Hollywood is full of lies, some unintentional, others deliberate. Very rarely does anyone do what they say or say what they truly mean. Only a fool believes everything they're told. Do you understand me, sister? Thanks, Marcus, I'll be careful. Music to my ears. Hold those words to heart and you may survive more than a few nights, the intrepid little mistake. I believe you're going somewhere, and though I can't foresee your destination, I'd like to see you reach it at the very bottom or the very top of Hollywood. Snickering softly, he shoved a hand into his pocket, rummaging around for something. Where is the damn... Ah, here. If you ever want to go find a car together to toss around like a football... That sounds like a Mavar pastime. This is where you'll find me. Okay. He reached for my hand, pressing a small object into my palm. My eyes flicked down to see what he'd given me. A small business card coloured bright red and emblazoned with bold black letters. Blood and Roses, a dark paradise for all your erotic fantasies, adult movies, magazines, and more. Was I misinterpreting this card, or did Marcus work at a sex shop? But by the time I glanced up again, he was already gone. I hadn't even heard the door open or shut. How had he left the room so suddenly? Maybe it was for the best if I didn't know. Leaving the empty room behind, I found my way back to the front desk, asking about Therese's reservation. A slightly awkward, pale-faced clerk handed me a key without question. Room 915. Numbly, I made my way into the elevator and up to my floor, where a posh corridor opened up to greet me. The room numbers felt like they passed by in a blurry marquee. 909, 911, 913, 915. My new home. The home of the horse paintings. Sparkling clean, warmly lit, beautifully decorated, and almost too glamorous to be real. The kind of room where you'd see stars partying, orgying, and overdosing, ringing up their agents, shutting the curtains to hide from camera flashes, straight out of a magazine. Up close, though, I realized the room was just as dead as me. The cameras were the only thing that made it seem so alive. But part of me had guessed that already. As I stared at one of the stock paintings on the wall, trying to figure out what emotion I was feeling, something stirred in my gut. A dull, aching hunger. It didn't feel like the hunger pangs I felt before. It was in my mind as much as my body, like an addict who needed their fix. Was it a hunger for that? As much as I didn't want to even think of it as a possibility, the idea uncomfortably wormed into my head. This is like literally... I'm pretty sure on the first night you only drink from the fridge. Maybe regular food would tide me over, or just some water. I knew that was bullshit, of course, but I pretended not to. I slunk over to the mini fridge, unsure of what I hoped to find. Pulling the tiny door open, I bent down to peer inside. But instead of discovering any water or food or even ice, I saw something completely different. 3 packs of blood neatly sealed in translucent bags like morbid juice boxes. I snatched one up without thinking. At that moment, the sketchy bag looked better than a meal from a 5-star restaurant. Moving on impulse, I sank my fangs into the plastic, downing the cold liquid in giant gulps. The second it slid down my throat, a rush of energy flowed through me. The pain vanished and my body hummed with, well, not life, but something close to it. Drinking it came so naturally, and each sip tasted better than the last. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I'd lost some part of myself at that moment. Something that might never come back. So I drank until the bag was empty and it was over. Oh, a knock at the door interrupted my dinner. Whew. I threw the empty bag into the trash can, quickly wiped off my bloody lips and reached for the door. I thought Charisse and Marcus had left, but maybe one of them had come back to tell me something? Hello, Heath. Oh, good evening. A gentle melodic voice purred out from the man before me. I'd never seen his face before, but his too pale skin and flashing fangs immediately gave away what he was. You're Valkii, aren't you? Please tell me I'm right. I wish handsome I have to be nice to him every time, okay? I wish handsome strangers knocked on my door every night. He let out a soft, surprised laugh, a delighted grin curling on his lips. I wanted to talk to you just for a little while. Promise I won't steal too much of your time. Sure, come in. Thank you. He slipped inside the room, glancing around curiously for a few moments. I smelled a delicate floral perfume on his skin and clothes, one that made my nose tingle. When he turned back to me, his eyes intensely fixated on mine, flicking away now and then as if he couldn't keep contact for too long. I didn't mean to catch you off guard, but I stopped by on, well, impulse. And really, I'm so happy that I did. He toyed with the fringe of his scarf, letting out a soft exhale. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Heath. I already know who you are, of course, and I hope we'll get to know each other much better. I wouldn't mind if we got to know each other a lot better. I'm sure there'll be lots of opportunities since Hollywood is a small, beautiful world, but I don't want to seem like I'm taking advantage of your situation. I passed Charisse on my way in, and she told me about what happened to you. It's awful. I'd say I'm sorry, but apologies won't get your life back, so I wanted to offer you a sympathetic ear and a shoulder to cry on if you needed it. He spoke quietly, gravely, as if he were attending a funeral for the Valkii who died back in that club. It wasn't so long ago that I lost my life too. The changes leave you almost numb at first, but when everything finally hits you, the loneliness is overwhelming. I just wish I could go back. Many of us do. The sunrise, food and drink, the people you love, a racing heartbeat, the warmth of someone close. Heath closed his eyes tightly, biting his bottom lip. All of it gone before you can even kiss it goodbye. And from there, it's too easy to just fade away into oblivion. He let out a quiet sigh, running a hand through his feathery hair. It was a little surprising how much my situation seemed to upset him, considering the apathy or amusement everyone else had shown so far. Charisse mentioned your house, too. Houses, well, they're supposed to be the core of who we are in this hidden world, what defines us and what sets us apart. Our gazes met for a few moments. He kept his head slightly lowered, either from shyness or a conscious effort to be coy. You know, we're supposed to hate each other on principle. Iskari and Mavar almost never get along. But I don't think there's any way I could bring myself to hate you. I couldn't care less what house someone's from. All that matters is their personality. You can still see things with such clear eyes without all the prejudices the rest of us have. I hope the coldness of this world never darkens that in you, Valkii. I truly do. Aww. Oh, he studied me for a moment in silence before his gaze shifted to the window. I glanced past him at the glittering cityscape, only to meet his stare again in the glass's reflection. His expression had quickly sobered. The way his moods seemed to shift so quickly caught me off guard. It was like they flicked on and off at a whim. You know, a few years ago, you would have had a group of Mavar to welcome you into this new world. But now, well... with the war going on, everyone seems more interested in protecting themselves than helping each other. Even their own house members. I can't stand it. Isn't there a way to make peace? He shook his head, tracing his thumb along the cross at his neck. No, not while the Mavar and Golgotha refuse to enter a treaty with us, the Iskari, that is. Until then, we're trapped in this endless cycle of bloodshed. I don't know who's more of a danger to us, the hunters or ourselves. Why can't they reach an agreement? Because everybody wants to be on top. Everybody thinks their leadership would be best. If you thought human government was difficult, imagine keeping a coven of aggressive, power-hungry immortals in line. It's like herding lions. Heath bit his lip, a troubled frown flitting across his face for a few moments. But listen to me, Valkii, please. More than anything, I hope you'll remember if you don't want to be alone, you don't have to be. I run a bar downtown, nothing much, just a little nook for stars and a sanctuary for people like us. It's called Saturnalia. Won't you come by sometime? I don't mean to sound pushy, but... The warm lamplight reflected in his eyes as they flicked up towards mine. His gaze was so longing, so hopeful, that I had to wonder what I'd done to warrant it. There's something different about you, something that I've never seen before. I'd really like to talk to you more, if you'd let me. I'd love to come by, Heath. I might even make a surprise visit. He immediately lit up at that, like I just offered him his favourite thing in the world. Then I hope you won't make me wait too long. I don't know if I could bear it. I should leave. The sun's coming up soon, but I'll remember to say a prayer for your success tomorrow. Until then, if you ever need me, you know where I am. With a gentle bow of his head, he gave me one last long look. Good night, Valkii. Good night, Heath. Sleep well. With that, Heath quietly made his way to the exit, slipping outside. Once the door clicked shut behind him, I was alone again in golden, solitary confinement. Like Heath said, the sun would rise soon, meaning I'd need to tightly shut the curtains and curl up until tomorrow night. In a way, I didn't want to. Shutting the curtains would mean surrendering to the reality that this wasn't all some insane dream. But I wasn't sure how much longer I could deny that reality. Click. Still love the click. With the coming sunrise safely hidden away, I turned off the bedroom lights. As I stared at the LED glow of the alarm clock, letting my transformed body sink towards something resembling sleep, one last thought drifted into my head. I felt strangely excited. As unbelievable and terrifying as tonight had been, a part of me was perversely thrilled. This new sense of power, this world of secrets, even the taste of blood, maybe this was who I was always meant to be. I'm just trying to choose things I haven't already chosen, I guess. With that feeling still settled in my chest, I closed my eyes. Finally, a comforting nothingness pulled me down into the dark and away from the coming day. I will see you in the next one. Bye.